Hey guys, welcome back to RMA Garage. I'm Mark and I'm glad you joined us today. In today's video, we're going to be doing a review on the Black Widow motorcycle carrier. I bought this for my dirt bike, so it may be easier to transport my motorcycle instead of getting up into the truck. I can just use it on the hitch rack. And my friend Eric is going to laugh because I sold him this rack probably 2-3 years ago, and he's going to chuckle that I bought another one. Now the only difference with that one is that this one has the longer ramp, so it's not as steep getting it up onto the rack. So I'm going to see how that is. But I have been looking for videos on YouTube about this, trying to decide if I was going to buy it. And I want to do my own video just to cover the things that were interesting to me and maybe to other people. So we're going to mount it on the back of my RV just for the sake of this video, but it is not RV approved. But we're going to put it together. I'm not going to do a step-by-step because these things are so simple to put together. But we are going to install it onto the RV, and we're going to look at how to strap it down and just the different things that I wanted to try with it. One being with a fork saver and without a fork saver, and of course with the longer ramps. So, all right guys, so let's get to it. So we got the box here. I did want to show you guys that when it was delivered, the box was in very good shape. I have seen some videos and some reviews that the box had holes in it and it was all beat up and pieces were scratched and because of the handling, but mine showed up in very good shape. Also, here's the model number. It is the AMC-400L is the model number. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and I've already cut the back off, so it was easy to take off right from the start. Okay, so what I'm kind of looking for is how well it was packaged and the quality of parts. Kind of just want to see. That is a long ramp. So that definitely looks like it would be easier to push up. So, I mean, there's a little bit of scuffs on it, but there's going to be a dirt bike on here and there's going to be mud. So there's a little bit of scuffing on that. All right, so here's the arm. No scratches, looks pretty good. Welds look good. Powder coat's pretty nice. So zoom up. Welds look pretty good. The Made in China sticker doesn't look like it's gonna last. It's barely on. All right, so that doesn't look too bad. All right, so here's the AntiWobble Device. Box is a little beat up from being in here, but it doesn't look, yeah, that's in pretty good shape. Powder coat's pretty good. You know, one thing about these bolts, sometimes on China stuff, the bolts are soft, so we may end up replacing these with grade 8 bolts, which are the gold. They have a gold coating on them. Get them at the auto parts store. We may end up doing that upgrade later. And these are all the packet pieces and parts. Everything looks pretty good. I don't know. We'll have to see if it's all here or not. All right, and we got the directions, and all right, so here's the final piece. I guess this would be up. So this is mill finish aluminum. As far as the welds, the welds look a little dark. Not too bad. Everything's covered in packing though. But there's a little bit of scorching here. So there's a little bit of scorching on that weld. I don't see any other. There's a few, a little bit more scorching, but nothing that would cause me to squawk and complain. So this one looks to be like a good one. And then we got the last pieces and parts. These are the parts that hold it on, other than being covered in packing. They don't look too bad. A little bit of scratching here, but I mean, none worse for wear. I've seen a lot worse from other reviewers. So this one looks to be like it's in really good shape. So, okay guys, we're going to put this together and see how it all bolts up and put it on the RV and see what it looks like. All right, so we're done building the rack, and the only issue I had was that when you bolt both plates onto the arm, these two plates were not lined up. So what you have to do is you can bolt the one side on, but leave this side loose. So when you slide it on, you can get these bolts in because they were not completely, totally lined up. So once I got these bolts in, I tightened these 4 bolts back up, and then it mounted up. So no issues there. It's really simple to put together. So our next step is going to be putting it on the car and seeing how it fits. All right, so first issue with using the RV as a prop, the bumper sticks out too far, so we're going to have to use the extension to at least use this as a guide. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we put our hitch extender on just for the sake of this video, because I want to see how this thing's gonna mount up. And I noticed one thing, the hitch extender is not letting me install it all the way on. So if you guys are using a hitch extender, the hitch extender won't allow you to put the rack all the way in. So fair warning on that one. So what we'll do is we'll end up putting this on the truck and installing it, because that's basically what I'm going to have it on. But with everything else in the driveway right now, I wanted to use the RV just to see how it mounted up. All right, guys, so I noticed something right off the bat. I wasn't paying attention when I built it, is the front tire goes here. Now in all the videos, they show the bike going up this way. Well, if that's the case, then I got to take this whole thing and spin it around. So it brings up an interesting point that you can mount the bike either way, front tire on the right or front tire on the left of the vehicle. So I'm going to change it because I'm kind of a front tire to the left. I like to go this way with it. That's what's natural to me, because that's the side of the kickstand, and everybody's used to pushing their motorcycle on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this, and let's see if we can do some magic. So there, it's changed. All right, I still had to loosen the bolts up on this plate because it was shifted. So this plate must not be exactly the same on as the other one, or it needs to be flipped. Anyway, it's mounted on there now, and we'll get put the ramp on. It's a long ramp. All right, guys, so we put it on the back of the RV, and it's not working out because we can't get it secured into the hitch extender. So, and we're running out of daylight, and I wanted to at least get it out of the box because I was kind of anxious to see what it looked like. So we're going to continue this tomorrow. I'm going to have the truck in the driveway, and we're going to mount it to the back of the truck, and we'll put the bike up, and we'll see how easy the ramp is for getting the bike onto the rack. So all right, guys, see you tomorrow. So we're here at the back of the truck. I'm going to install it, show you how it all goes together as far as the original components that comes with it, the anti-wobble device. I'm also going to demonstrate you a anti-wobble device that I purchased separately, and we're going to review that one as well, which I prefer over this, but we'll get into it. So the anti-wobble device has 4 bolts on the bottom, and one bolt gets screwed up against the actual rack itself to keep it steady. And then there's 3 in the back. This one jams up against the back of the receiver, and then these act as kind of a anti-sway, anti-wobble. So the way this works is this faces out. So that faces out. So we're going to put this on. All right, guys, we're here at the hitch, and obviously the first thing we want to do is line the hitch up with the actual rack, and we already did that for the sake of this video for me to line under here. So we're going to just put the pin in just for demonstration. Okay, now this wobble device, it fits up against the receiver like so, and then this bolt screws up, and what it does is it touches the rack right there. Okay, so then this bolt here gets tightened. Okay, and we're going to we're just going to tighten that down just a little bit. Okay, now you have the other fasteners in the back. Okay, and then this one gets screwed up against the rack. Or I'm sorry, this gets screwed up against the bottom of the hitch. Okay, and then these get tightened up against the bottom of the receiver as well. Okay, now what's kind of interesting about this is that when I tighten this side becomes loose. I can turn that, and then this side, that one loosens that side. So what ends up happening is that as I tighten this side loosens up because it's obviously pulling down, and you just kind of have to get them both tight. And as see, this one loosened up as well, because as these push up against the bottom of the receiver, everything gets loose. So every time I tighten, if I tighten this one now loosens up a little bit. See, this one was tight, now it's loose. So you kind of have to do an even, you can't really get these tight. All you have to do is get them kind of like snug, so they're all pretty much, you can't unscrew them, okay, but they're not tight, like super tight. So now the rack, it does not move. Okay, so, but what happened when I used this the other day, and all 3 of these bolts loosened, and it really didn't do anything for me. I was actually kind of bummed that all of this loosened up, because again, this is the only one you can super tighten, because it's being fastened from here to here, and this can clamp down and you're good. But these 3 all work against each other when you're trying to tighten up against the hitch. So I mean, it works, but it's not perfect in my book. So I have another alternative that I'm going to show you right now. Okay guys, so the other silent hitch alternative, if you want to call it that, is the silent hitch pin. Now this is made by Let Go Aero, and this is quite unique because it takes any rack receiver combination and turns it into a silent hitch. And we've been using this on the RV now probably for about a year since we bought the bicycle rack. And I'm going to show you what this thing is. So this is made by Let Go Aero. I bought this from eTrailer, and I will put a link below in the description and give you an idea of what this, so you can check it out for yourself. Okay, so basically what this is basically a nut. Okay, and this, I'm going to demonstrate this. This slides into the actual rack itself. And then this part here bolts into, okay, this slides in here, and this bolts into the receiver, okay? And what that does is that if you can, this will lock the hitch, receiver, and the rack itself. They'll bolt it together, and I'll show you that here in a second. All right, so the first thing we want to do is take the block, and what we're going to do is we're going to decide which side we want the bolt to go through, and I'm going to slide mine through this way. So I'm going to put the block, and this spring holds it in place so it doesn't slide all the way down. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide this down until it gets pretty much right in line with the hole. Okay, so now that it's now in line with this, so now we'll go ahead and put it into the receiver. Okay, so then the next step is to take, we got the bolt here, and just for reference sake, you got the washer and then a lock washer, so they're going to be installed just in that configuration. And then we're going to slide that in. All right, so that is it. All right, now, so as you can see, I'm going to try and shake this hitch back and forward. I'm going to push down on it. It is not going anywhere. To me, this is the simplest solution for having no wobble in any carrier hitch combination. All right, so one more feature that I want to show you is that this is actually a locking pin. So this is the lock itself. There's actually a dust cover over where you put the key, and it's kind of nice. We've had this on the RV now for about a year, the same one. And what you do is you just pop it on and you're good to go. Now you have an anti-wobble and you got a locking hitch pin, so you know that your rack is secure. This is what I recommend for using any type of bicycle rack, motorcycle rack, anything. This is the way to go. Okay guys, so one of the features of this rack is that the ramp itself can be stored on the rack itself, and that's done by sliding the rack onto the bolts and then using wing nuts to fasten them down basically. And I'm not going to tighten it right now because I want to show you something later. And that's a great feature, but what ends up happening is that when you go down the road, that makes a lot of noise, because even though you tighten these things up, it's still going to bounce if you hit a big bump. Okay, so what I decided to do is with mine, I have a piece of rubber, and this is a self-adhered rubber, or you guys can use foam tape, you can use anything you want, and I am going to set this down like so. Okay, so that one is going to protect the rack from scratching when you go to put it on. So now you have this rack and you got the ramp installed. Okay, so the ramp is now on. It's still going to bounce, but it's not going to make the clatter, and it's going to protect the hitch, to protect the rack. Okay, so just wanted to show you that quick little tip. I wanted to show you guys kind of like my setup here. My truck is all the way over my driveway, and the ramp being as long as it is, I barely have enough room to get the dirt bike in line with the ramp, so I don't really have a chance to run up on it. All right, so pushing the dirt bike up wasn't really that difficult. I did lean it up against the truck, which it was leaning up against the airbox, which not a big fan of, but for the meantime, that's kind of what I do. And I'll have a strap, and basically I strapped the bike and I cranked it enough just so that it takes the pressure off of the airbox in the back. So right now it's just kind of suspended, just giving me enough opportunity now to go ahead and put all the straps on the bike. One interesting aspect though is when you use the ramp. Okay, the ramp connects into this little round a piece of aluminum that's welded to the rack, but the tire is actually touching it. Okay, so this rack is not going to want to come out because the rear tire is holding it down. So that was kind of like the first initial thing that we saw, and they don't really show that in any of the marketing videos. So what you end up having to do is you have to kind of rock the bike that way before you strap it down to get the ramp off. It's a little hairy, but it's still something that you have to do. In some of the videos that I saw, it just showed this rack, just the guy just lifting it off. So I'm not quite sure how that's possible, but maybe my wheelbase is a little bit longer than some. But right now, with the front tire being completely up against the front of the rack, my rear wheel impedes me being able to take the rack off. So before going too crazy with all of the straps, I'm going to take the rack off. I keep saying ramp, taking the ramp off. All right, so bear in mind there's only one strap holding this bike on, but what I do is I kind of just roll the bike forward a little bit. Just a little bit like that to get it out of the spot. If not, if you strap this thing down, that tire is clamped onto this and you can't get it off. So that's how you take the rack off. The ramp. Take the ramp off. Okay guys, so the next item up for business here is getting this back strap on. And again, this is only really the second or third time doing this, and what I've been trying to do is come up with a plan and a process that works perfectly. But obviously if you guys are doing this for the first time, it's going to be a little quirky trying to get everything just perfectly set. So this is not 100% like, hey, let's just strap this all together. Everything has to be set just right. Everything has to be basically put in place. The straps at the right length, everything at the right length. So it is a little quirky. Okay, so basically just having that strap like so, I'm going to pull this up a little bit more. And again, this is a little killywampus. So I'm gonna stand the bike up a little bit higher, knowing that I got a strap on that, it's not gonna fall and hit me. And then I'm gonna strap this down, kind of alternating a little bit as we go. Okay, so basically that is kind of getting there. So when I used it, I kind of had it leaning towards the truck a little bit, just to kind of maybe make the weight a little biased to the back. But right now, quite honestly, that's not going anywhere. The straps pretty much are as tight as I would see them, maybe do a little bit more, but this bike is not going anywhere. Now it's going to wobble a little bit because all metal bends, it flexes, but this is kind of how I transport it. Okay, now I usually put a towel underneath this as well, just so it doesn't dig into the plastic a little bit. And then this really doesn't scratch too much. So that is what we do. Now there is one other thing. The directions show strapping to the swing arm, which I'm not quite sure what that does, because you're not really strapping it down, you're strapping it towards the kind of at more of an angle than we are down. So I've come up with a different solution for that. Okay guys, as you can see, the main straps for the dirt bike are around the handlebar. Okay, but what I did was I put two other straps on the lower triple clamp, and I'm going to use that as leverage to put a tie down, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so there's the loops. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our strap. I'm going to bring it up here, and I'm going to loop it through these straps. Okay, and I'll bring it down. I'm going to latch it onto that side, and we're going to fast connect to this side here. All right, so as you can see, this is kind of like another steady, this kind of locks everything in. I've got a strap here, two straps here, one strap down here, and I actually rode an hour to my riding spot and back with this exact setup, just the three straps. I didn't have any straps on the wheels. I didn't have anything going to the swing arm, hitting bumps, going 70 miles an hour down the expressway. I did not experience any issues of any kind. And as you can see, this is not wobbling. Now that is the metal. That's not the rack tilting back and forth. Everything's going to have a little wobble to it. But this thing is pretty much ready to go. So this was the modification that I came up with to allow this thing to be strapped down a little bit better. Now I also did not use the fork saver, okay? And the reason why is because when you tie down a motorcycle and the strapping is in front of the front wheel, like as if it's in this section, then you're putting a lot of stress on these forks and you don't want them to compress. But with this, these straps are actually pulling down, straight down on the bike. So we're compressing the rear spring and the shocks at the same time, the front shocks. So you're really not getting that compression on the forks. Plus it allows it to flex just a little bit, because with that, you don't have to strap these things down so hard that they're, you know, really stressed out. You don't want one breaking. So we don't need a fork saver because how we're pulling down on the bike evenly like this. So I drove it for an hour to our riding spot and back, and no issues, no wobbles, no nothing. Even though I used the other wobble device, it did loosen up. It was still pretty secure. With the new wobble device, I think it's going to be even better. All right guys, so I want to just show you around a little bit on what it all looks like. When I'm wanting to buy racks like these, I always like to see what they look like from all directions. The clearance obviously is the same clearance as the bottom of the hitch. So you've got plenty of ground clearance, at least I do. And as you notice that the bike is leaned in just a little bit here, and I just kind of like it that way. I don't know, it just kind of gives me a little bit of ease of mind to say that it's not going to go anywhere. The wheels fitting very nicely. I'm getting contact here, there, and I'm getting contact underneath. There is one support under the wheel, so it's not really touching, but it is touching the back right here, so I know that the bike can't go that way. It doesn't have any wobble in it. Maybe that's why they put the strap on the swing arm, is because if the bike doesn't set in this little cradle just perfectly, it can go back and forth. So I'll show you the other side. So here's the front wheel. The front wheel is touching the rear, or the other side here. And you can probably see the tire is a little deformed, so we know we're getting good compression on the strapping. So, and this is not going anywhere. I can't even wobble it here. So again, from the other side, you can see all right. So this is a 2016 F-150 XLT Super Cab 6-foot bed, and showing you guys the height. So you're looking at basically 16.5 inches from the ground to the bottom of the hitch, and that's for the most part the bottom of the hitch for the truck. Now obviously with the weight of the bike is going to bring it down a little bit, but 2016 YZ250FX weighing about 250 pounds, you're getting 16.5 inches. And then we'll lengthen this out from the back of the truck. All right, so from the back, the actual bumper itself to the back, you're looking at roughly 28 inches, 29 inches basically. So just for the sake of how far it sticks out. And that's from the face of the bumper. That's from the face of the bumper right there. Okay. And then just to see how far it sticks out on the side of the truck, the front wheel does stick out a little bit, so you can kind of keep an eye on it with the rear view mirror. If you hit a bump, you can kind of just see if it's going to wobble a little bit. And then the rear sticks out just a little bit, just the same on both sides. And the rack for the most part is about the width of the truck. Exactly. Okay, so you're wondering where my ramp is. Okay, I'm cheating. My ramp is in the back of the truck. So I don't actually put it on there. I will put the ramp on the rack to store it, but I won't go down the road with it. So you're asking me why I did this. Well, getting this bike up and down into my truck by myself is not a fun thing, especially if it's on a hill or if the truck's not sitting flat. This is to me, a better alternative to transport my bike, and making it so much easier for one person to load it and unload it instead of having to get it up into the truck. And then of course on my truck, I do not have a long enough bed. Okay, so my bed here is only 6 foot. So when I put my dirt bike on, I have the tailgate down, and then I have my bed extender that you've seen in other videos, and it's right there. It's you drop the tailgate down, and then so now you have the tailgate is down, you got the bike in there, then anything you want to put in the bed of the truck, you got to strap it down, make sure it doesn't slide around. But with this, I can keep my ladder on the truck for work. The ramp can go in here, my boots can go in here. I don't have to worry about anything flying out, and I have my bike that is completely, totally accessible for me to get it loaded and unloaded easily. So that's why I bought the rack. Okay guys, so you show up at your riding spot and you got your bike here. What's the first thing that you do? Well, Good question. I had this same discussion with myself prior to getting to my riding spot, is what am I going to do when I get there first? Now I grabbed the ramp first and I went to put it on, and I realized that you can't get the ramp on because the tire I'll show you here. The tire is on this piece and it's clamped on pretty good, and I can't move the bike a little bit. I can move it, but I can't really get the ramp in there. So the first thing that I got to do is I got to get this bike unstrapped to a point where I can roll it backwards a little bit and get this ramp on. All right, so the first one that I take off is this one down here, because it really doesn't affect much at all. I consider this my safety strap, I think. At least in my mind, I do. All right, so we take that one off. All right, so this, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I think about which strap do I want to take off first. If I take off the back one first, then the bike's going to come flying towards me and I got to hold it up, okay? So if I loosen this one first, then it takes a little bit of the pressure, and if the bike is going to act strange, it's going to go towards the truck instead of on me, okay? So what I do is I pull down a little bit to take the pressure off the ratchet, and then I raise it up just a little bit, and then I look to see if it's going to hit the truck, and it's not. It's about an inch away, okay? So now I can take the other strap off, which again is not the best angle use. It just feels weird still. Okay, so we took that strap off. So the only thing holding this bike on right now is this strap right here. Okay, so now we direct our attention to the ramp. Okay, so this ramp is I'm gonna go into the grass at this point, so we should be okay. But what I'll do is I'll take this and we'll roll this wheel up just enough to get the ramp on there. Okay, so we got the ramp on, we got one more strap, and then we're ready to manhandle this bike off of the rack. Now, when I mean manhandle, it's not easy. Now, if you look in the videos that Black Widow or even E-Trailer have, it just shows the guy, it shows the video and the front wheel is already sort of on the ramp. So you can see right at the very beginning of the video that he's like really jerking it, and then it shows him lightly just taking it off, okay? Well, they don't really show him rocking it back and forth to try and get it off of this, okay? So I'm gonna show you, and this is actually a little bit, it made me nervous the first time that I tried this, okay? So what you have to do, you kind of rock it, you have to get it up. Now I weigh 160 pounds. I'm a lightweight guy. So if I weighed 210 and I could bench 200 pounds, I could just probably lightly push this off, but I'm not. I'm a light guy, okay? So what I gotta do is I gotta get this up over the lip here and off the rack. Now I get it up. All right, so now I'm gonna grab the front brake. So now it's ready to go. So that didn't seem hard because I've done it probably 2 or 3 times now. The first time I did it, it was very difficult. So now I'm using the front brake and I'm gonna walk it down. All right, guys, so there's one other thing that I want to show you here, and I've seen this on people that have owned this rack, seen pictures of it. It always seems like that it is tilted, okay? So I'm going to see if I can point this out on the video. If you look on this side, get out of the way. If you look at the relationship between the bumper and the edge of the rack and the bumper on the edge of that side of the rack, you can see that there's a little bit of a height difference. This is lower, okay? Now the way this is designed is this is always the load side, okay? So I'm thinking that maybe that from use, I thought that this kind of drops off after a while. But then I noticed right here, okay, if I were to measure that with a tape measure, this is about 7/8 of an inch, and this is about 3/4 of an inch. So in a span of 20 inches, you got basically 1/8 of an inch or heavier, okay? So when you have a rack that's this long, okay, you have a rack that is 70, call it, just call it 6 feet, okay? That's 1/8 of an inch, 6/8, okay, or just over 1/2 inch or better. Now when you load a motorcycle up, it's gonna flex a little bit. As you can see, that Hitch AntiWobble device is pretty stout. This thing's not moving at all. But it is not an optical illusion. It is not that I built it wrong. The holes for this side and the holes for this side, the rack is actually tilted a little bit. So it's just something that I saw. I don't think it affects anything. It doesn't affect anything at all. But just so you guys are wondering, if you see in some of the videos and some of the photos of owners that have this, you notice that it does not sit level. And that always bugged me because I thought that maybe it was not right, or that after you use it for a while that it starts to bend and do everything. It's exactly how it was made. So anyway, tidbit of information. All right, so now that everything is all put away, I got my bikes clean, right? You get back from riding and you got it all unloaded, you got it in the garage, you got the clothes in the laundry room, and you've kissed your wife and said, hey dear, can you clean my clothes for me? Taking this apart really isn't that big a deal. This is the last thing to do. So we take a key, we unlock our AntiWobble device, pops off real easy. One thing I like about this is that it's one step, putting the hitch pin in and doing the wobble device is the way to go. The way I store it, I put the hitch pin back in. I don't really tighten it up, just kind of let it in there. Make sure it doesn't screw out. I put that on there, and we store it in the garage or someplace wherever I can lean up against the wall. And it's just simple as that. All right, shout out to my friend Eric, who I used to own this rack about 2 years ago, and at the time I didn't want it, didn't need it. And without having sold it to him, I wouldn't have been able to find the current riding spot that I have now. So Eric, thank you very much. And yes, I bought another one and I'm gonna use it a whole lot more than I used the last one. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any comments, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe so to keep the channel going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.